Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sara Newman, and I'm so glad you're joining me for this episode of Saturday with Sara. Today we're playing with the Around the World collection from our friends at Stamperia. I adore this collection. We have pattern paper, we have chipboard die cuts, and rub-ons, all with a vintage style for travel and exploration. So I'm going to move aside the chipboard and the rub-ons, and we can take a look at the Around the World paper pad. This has 10 double-sided 8x8 sheets. You have some great background papers in here with old world style maps and handwriting and faux postage. Lots of images of London and Paris. And what I also like here is that you've got some matching cutout elements. So here's one side of this sheet, and then the other side you can see has another variation of those same cutouts. So you've got lots of choices in here. Really beautiful color palette, and these are just so much fun to work with. So here's some more of those cutouts. The other side is just a nice background paper. This sheet can be used as is or cut apart, and I will show you a project using that. And again, some more of these gorgeous collage backgrounds. Now this is the inside back cover of the paper pack, lots of cutouts in there. And if I can go back to the inside front cover, you can see we've got some more cutout elements in here too. So really useful. Not an inch is wasted in here. Now you've also got a set of coordinating rub-on images. So you can see these are all perfectly designed to coordinate and work beautifully on the front of a card, the inside of your card, or indeed to go along with any of these cutout elements. They're really easy to use, and I will show you in today's webisode. And Stamperia also includes some instructions on the back of the package as well. So those are the rub-ons. Now, of course, we've also got this beautiful package of die-cut chipboard elements. I can tell you that it's a little easier to see them if you can spread them all out, so that's what I've done here. And you can see that you've got lots of elements that work beautifully for a card focal. These have some really nice large elements. And then you've also got some smaller pieces in here too, which can be collaged together, or you can use them for the inside of your card. Now you can also use them for other paper crafts, like maybe a little mini tag book like this one here. This is one of today's projects. So this collection is perfect for so many different themes and occasions, and I have to say I had a lot of fun working with it. So as you can see, we have a lot to explore today, and I am really glad you're here. Come play with us. Let's start with a simple card layout that includes a lot of different elements and some fun techniques. So first, I've started by covering my card front with this teal cardstock. Now this is from Hot Off the Press's Seafoam and Pearls cardstock set. And I chose the teal to coordinate with some of the other kind of bluish elements that I've got here, but also to contrast with the brown and kind of help lighten the color palette of the pattern paper and the chipboard. I think it provides a really nice contrast and just adds another nice touch of color here. Now this pattern paper that you see here has been distressed a little bit. So the sheet that I'm working with is, let me bring it in for you here. It's the second to last in the paper pack. So it's this one right here. It's got some really nice faux texture on here, some lines like old sheet paper. And I've just simply cut down a piece slightly smaller than the front of my card. And then to distress it, I've crumpled it lightly. So just kind of gently working with it like so. Now because it is cardstock, it's going to resist me a little bit here. It's going to have some nice texture and dimension to it. So I'm just crumpling this up. And then what I'm going to do is grab a sanding tool, and I'm going to sand gently some of those crumpled areas. And I think you can see, especially right here, where I'm wearing through the pattern design and I'm revealing that white core underneath. And here we've got some really nice distressing going on. So then when I've distressed this and sanded it as much as I would like, then what I wanted to do is still have it laying flat on my card. So, you can smooth it out. You can put a stack of books or magazines on top. If you want to speed it up a little bit, you can also just grab your embossing plates, pop it in there, and then run it through your die cutting machine to kind of flatten it out a little bit. And then what I've done after it's flattened and ready to add to my card, I did this little fold down corner technique. Now what you do here is just grab another snippet of a piece of pattern paper, and then I glued the two of them together, just putting glue around this area here, aligning that with the corner, and then folding down the corner like so. And that's just going to give you a really nice added bit of pattern and texture and dimension, and just creates a really nice little design element up here at the top. Then I've inked around the outside edges of this, and I used the pear green dye-based ink for this because it does give a little bit of shading on here, but it's not a super high contrast. Creates a nice bridge between this weathered light brown and my teal back here. Then the card focal is a collage of cutouts and chipboard elements. So this teal postcard here has a rub-on right up here at the top corner, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, plus another cutout over here with the Eiffel Tower. Now these elements are glued straight down onto the front of the card, and then I've also got this chipboard element glued down, and then the Eiffel Tower and the postmark are popped up on foam tape. This has a little bit of extra foam tape underneath this corner just so that everything stays fairly level. I'm going to have a little bow tied in jute twine. So let's take a look at the rub-ons, and I'm going to grab here a postcard cutout from the paper pack and one of the rub-on elements. Now you will need to have some kind of tool to do the application, and I'm using a bone folder for this. So I've cut out both of the layers of this. So I'm just going to remove this backing piece and then carefully kind of see where I want this rub-on element to go. I'm going to put this right down in the corner here. And I like to fold up kind of a corner of the plastic piece. You can see that there, just so I have something to kind of grab onto. I'll smooth this down, and it's not going to go sliding around. It's on there pretty nicely. Then I'll take my bone folder and just burnish this design on here. So I want to make sure, especially with detail and words and script, to make sure that I go over that really well. All of these little elements here to make sure that it transfers nicely. And let's see, I think I may have done a pretty thorough job there. I'll grab that corner and then just gently and slowly work this up. So if I need to put it back down and continue rubbing on, I can definitely do that. Looks like I didn't get that bottom piece, so I'll just place that back down there. Go back and burnish it again, and then there we go. So I've got my rub-on transferred on here ready to go, and I think that creates a really beautiful effect. Now what you can also do, if you don't want this entire collaged piece to be rubbed on, you can also just use your scissors before you do your rubbing on and trim out the various elements from that rub-on sheet that you want. So you've got some options to go there. Then for my card inside, I have more of that gorgeous teal cardstock. Did a little bit of inking around the edges here too, plus another cutout from the paper pack and some chipboard elements, and the Sending Smiles message, which is from the Script Dazzle set. This card also features some distressing, and this time it's on that teal cardstock, and it gives a fun weathered look to this seafaring themed design. So what I've done here, when I covered my card front with that dark teal cardstock, and again that is from the Seafoam cardstock pack from Hot Off the Press, Then I just grabbed my sanding tool and did a little bit of light sanding on there. Now this works really nicely with darker colored paper and cardstock. So here's a piece of just brown cardstock, and you can see here if I just come in quite gently and keep my sanding tool even and flat against the cardstock, then I can start to reveal some of that white core, and you can see how nice that looks. So I don't need to do the entire piece. I can just go around the edges, and I can also go around the edges right like I would with an ink pad. So let's see. Brush that away, and you can see on here, maybe if I bring in another piece of dark cardstock, there you go, you can see that nice white edge on there. So this is a great thing about cardstock and pattern paper that has a white core. You can sand away some of that white core, and it can give you a really nice option for distressing on there. So here again, I've got some pattern paper that is just cut slightly smaller than the card front. And this is the pattern paper that I'm working with, this gorgeous sheet here. So it's got the sea and the horizon on there, beautiful background. You don't need to do a whole lot else to use it as your background paper on here. I inked the edges a little bit with khaki ink so that I've got a nice bit of contrast on there. And I do have some rub-ons on here as well. There's some rub-ons right here and then this one here. And I positioned this scrap of text right on the horizon line so it would lead your eye into the main focal, which is this beautiful vintage chipboard element. Now the ship is popped up on foam tape, and I've got a chipboard compass here and then another cutout accent kind of peeking out from behind the ship. And these are glued straight down, and then the ship is up on some foam tape for a bit of dimension. And again, just so that things are layered nicely and nothing gets crushed when you're mailing or handing over the card. And then again, I've got another script dazzle down here at the bottom. Now, my tip here is place the dazzle down before you put the ship in place, and that'll help to make sure that you don't have, a squeezed in sentiment down there at the bottom. And then for the card inside, I created a small collage of a cutout element from the book, and then the compass and the postage elements. These are chipboard. And then I've got another dazzle down here at the bottom. So I've been using a lot of the cutouts here and then as you see here on my cards. And there's a special cutout in the paper pack that I wanted to show you. So I'm going to move aside this card. Now here's that pattern paper I used. Here is one of the cutouts that I wanted to share with you. I love a mini envelope. I think you may know this. And this little guy is all ready for you to cut out and fold up and use. So I've cut this out, just grabbed a pair of scissors to trim this out. It's pretty easy. The reverse side is a nice kind of neutral background paper on there. So what you can do is just simply fold this up and you're ready to go. Now, you can fold it up freestyle if you want to, but if you want a little bit of guidance, what I like to do is use a ruler, and I'll just place that along the sort of indicated fold lines. Grab my bone folder that I use for the rub-ons and use that to score this up. So then I can kind of get that paper relaxed and I can fold it up like so. So that's what I do around all four sides there, and that just makes it a lot easier and more accurate when you're folding things. So let's see, I'll do this one over here. And I'm just using my regular craft ruler here, and again, that bone folder. It really comes in handy, a bone folder. Okay, so there we go. And then I can fold this up, fold in the sides, and this side over here. Also works nicely to do some creasing with your bone folder, really make sure that that's scored down in place. And then you can just glue that up as is. Now you can also ink around the outside edge, which is what I did when I created this little guy here. So I've got my outside element here. I did decide to add a little bit of decoration on there, although you kind of don't have to. This is what it looks like as is, but I thought, oh, why not use some of those little cutouts and chipboard element here, pop those up on foam tape. I also added a little bit of gingham ribbon on there too. Then the other side, you can see here, I've tucked down that top flap using one of the chipboard elements. So I've popped this down on foam tape, and I made sure to put the foam tape only at the bottom. And then that way I've got some space in between the chipboard and the paper so that this can tuck right underneath. Now, when I open this up, you can see here that I have a little cutout message glued onto cardstock, so it fits perfectly inside. So this is one of the cutouts from the paper pack. Now, this envelope is a great size for so many things. I mean, I suppose a ticket to Paris could potentially fit in here. But if the recipient is maybe traveling a bit closer to home, a gift card to your favorite bookstore would also fit in here perfectly. Or, of course, a little note, sentiment, photo, so many different things. It can be tucked right inside here. Now, I have one more project to show you, so let me grab my embossing supplies and we'll have a look. This little book is made up of several tags die cut from pattern paper and just simply bound with ribbon. I had so much fun making this little book, and I think you could easily include even more pages, either with more pattern paper or plain cardstock. A combination of the two would be a lot of fun as well. Now I'm cutting my tags with the tag in a bag die set. So as you can see here, you've got two dies. You've got the bag portion and you have the tag. In this case, I'm only using the tag shape. And each tag has a cutout and or some chipboard elements to decorate it. So let's start with the cover here. Now I've die cut this tag using the map paper, and I use this kind of center section in here. And this is the beauty of double-sided pattern paper. So on the other side, I've got this other really gorgeous map design as well. Now on the front here, I've cut out the world travel cutout, and I added some spattered cocoa bean ink on top. So this is what the die cut or the cutout looks like when you just cut it out from the paper pack. And then to add in a little bit of additional texture, I'm using a dye-based ink. This one is from Hunky Dory. It's the cocoa bean. I've got my Distress splatter brush on hand. I'm working onto my craft mat, you can tell. And this is what I'm going to use as my palette for this. So I've just got a little bit of that cocoa bean ink on there. I'm going to add a little bit of water and then kind of mix this up, get a watery wash with my splatter brush. And then I'm just going to splatter this right on here. And you can do as much or as little as you want to. This is going to create a really beautiful aged effect. Now, it's not a very dark brown ink, so if you want it to be a little bit darker, a little bit more dramatic, just add less water to the mix. But I really like how this gives a very soft and really authentic vintage appeal to it. So then once I've let that dry, and you can also speed up the dry time by giving it a quick zip zap with your heat tool, then I added a rub-on on top. So let me show you this. Definitely make sure that that is completely dry before you add your rub-on on there, but that's going to give you even more depth and dimension. Now, if you want to have the combination of the rub-on and the spattering, be sure and do the spattering first. If you do it on top of the rub-on, because that's a non-porous surface, the spattering won't stay, so it'll just kind of wipe off. So if you want the spattering underneath your rub-on image, be sure and do your spattering first. Now, I think you can also see along the edges of this cutout, I've got some gold embossing. Now, this is a really easy way to add some nice texture and dimension to your project as well. So I'm going to bring in a piece of just plain scrap paper. I've got some gold wow embossing powder here, and I'm just going to put a little bit here into the fold of my scrap paper. And I've got another one of the cutouts here. I've also got my Wow embossing ink pad. And I also have another handy little tool here. This is called the Handle It. This is from Ranger. And besides being adorable, it's also super useful for embossing small elements because you can just use it like a gripper. The little hands on here are heat resistant, which means that you don't have to hold this with your hands and get your hands potentially burnt or at least very, very warm. So let's take a look. I'm going to take my embossing ink pad and ink all four sides of my cutout here. Make sure I get the lid back on there. And then I'm just going to dip this in the powder. Now, if I want a heavy edging, I can add a lot of embossing powder. For something more streamlined, just go with those edges on there. Okay, so I think you can see I've got lots of nice embossing on here. And then because this is folded so nicely, I can just use that to put it back into my jar of embossing powder. So then what I'm going to do, holding this over my craft mat, because this is a heat resistant surface, I'm then going to get my embossing tool and hang in there with me for just a minute and I will heat emboss this and we'll take a look. Alrighty, so no burned fingers, no burned thumbs, and you can see that beautiful gold edging around here. So a super handy little tool to have if you do a lot of embossing, particularly for small elements like this. All right, I'm going to bring back in my little tag book here. And you can see that I've got this just simply layered onto the front of my tag book. I've also added some cutouts and a chipboard die cut element here. And I've got the bicycle. This is popped up onto some foam tape, again, for a little bit of additional dimension. And then the rest of the book tends to follow the same pattern. So you can see here, again, the reverse side of that gorgeous map paper is more beautiful map paper. I've used the cutout here, inked and embossed around the outside edges. And then I've got the chipboard stack of suitcases. This page here is die cut from the page of postcards. So let me show you what that looks like. The original page is this one right here. So you could definitely cut this apart and use those individually. You can also position the die exactly where you want it to go so that you get a little bit of a couple of different designs in there. So do keep that in mind. These papers are really, really versatile. Now I've added the Ferris wheel rub-on here. The Around the World is also a rub-on. And then I've got a cutout element and a chipboard piece here. And then the final pages on here, again, some more cutouts popped up on foam tape, inked and embossed around the outside edge, and just embellished slightly with a chipboard accent on here. Same thing going on here. And then I've got a Celebrate Dazzle to finish it off. So you can see where you could just keep going and going on here. Now all of the tags are bound together with a ribbon. I just threaded that through the tag hole. One little tip, when you do this, be sure to leave about a pinky's width in here before tying the knot so that the pages can turn easily and open up and lay flat. And that is our final project of the day today. So a big thank you to our friends at Stamperia for all of these gorgeous elements here. As you can see, I had a great time playing with everything in today's collection, sharing it with you. And a special thanks to you for joining me today. We're so glad that you're here, and we're really happy that you're a part of our Paper Wishes family. Do feel free to leave a comment. Of course, you know we love to hear what you think. Now, each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them here on the screen. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, have a look in the description box below this video. You'll find a link that will take you to our Paper Wishes webisodes page, and you can see everything I just mentioned. If you enjoyed our video today, we'd always appreciate a thumbs up. It does help people to find our channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We create 3 to 5 videos each week, so there's always something fun to inspire your creative spirit.